Hi, everyone. Welcome to this flash stream with Black Spring with Autumn. And we're just going to have a sneak peek at all the pageantry and just a little bit more to come. Hey, welcome to this flash stream, and I hope you guys are doing well on your Saturday. But I'm just having a look. Of course, I've heard the mainstream media hacks. I've heard from independent or alternative news, grassroots, citizen journalist, and I don't know. This is just going to be a little bit open ended, so if you feel like chiming in, I'm going to give you guys your typical 2 to 3 minute allowance to just chime in. I'm just having a look to see what's happening on the other side of this coin. What a bizarre, what a bizarre time. So thank you guys so much for coming in, and thank you so much for joining me. And this is what I'm bringing to you right now is a looks like it's entitled a president elect. I guess they've dropped the projected already. So we'll see what happens. This is dismal what's happening around this country right about now, but we're gonna have a look in anyway. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I guess I'm not sure what remarks that are being brought forward at this point. I'm not sure, but it just looks like I don't know. I'm at a loss for words for now, but thanks so much for coming in. So just FYI, I mean, in the background, I'm not sure what exactly these remarks are about. In fact, it's pretty easy to be inundated with what's coming out. I think on both sides right now. The mainstream, for one, looks like I am buffering right about now. I will try to resolve that really quickly. If not, don't get squirrely and blast me with a bunch of, it's glitching. It happens. So I'll do what I can to clear it up. If not, I'll reset it and come right back. But in the meantime, let me see if I can't make a couple of adjustments right now. Hope you guys are doing well out there, and I don't know, keeping your wits about yourself, and yeah, hang. You know, I just this is not sustainable, is what I can say. The amount of division and the amount of it's just not it's not sustainable. So with that, we're just gonna hang out here for a second. If worst case, if this continues, I will bail out and come back in. I will bail out and come back in. Hope you guys are doing well. Shout out to AZ Infidel. Thank you so much for all that you do. And thank you for taking time out of your Saturday to pop in. You said there's no buffering on your end. It could be just mine. Could be just mine. The worst case, I will pop out and come back in. I appreciate you guys for taking the time. No matter what side you're on, this is yeah, I just can't I cannot. This is a lot to digest, to say the least. So yes, of course, I could inundate you with all the reports that are coming out from the pundits, from Giuliani to Lewandowski. Of course, there's been rallies all over. all over the country. I'm just not sure if that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm not sure. Just having a look in. Thank you so much, AZ Infidel and Dad Bod 420. Thank you so much for coming in. Shout out to DJ Vision Barnett. How are you? So I may minimize this just for a split second. Comment from AZ Infidel that says, in 2018, the DHS instituted safeguards for the election that includes embedded markers in mail-in ballots. I just, to be honest, right now, I have not had good feelings. I haven't had good vibes about this for several weeks. I'm just going to be as objective, and I'm just going to be as real as I can be, because that's just reality for me. I'm just not. I mean, I've said this before. We're in a bit of we've been in a transformative state for a while, and to me, I think this is another. This is another huge sign that I can't, like I said, I can't. As I said, I'm not really sure what this is about. I thought that, hopefully he's going to make an appearance within whatever he's going to say. Hopefully he's going to do it within a few minutes or so. I mean, I wasn't expecting it to just be, but this is going to be live and nothingness. Shout out to everybody in the stream. I'm not sure who this guy is. But, it just, the irony of this is this. I mean, are we officially lawless? Is that what it is? I mean, when you're relying on the media to call an election, I mean, where's that in the Constitution? I mean, is that what we're doing? I'm just asking. They might need to you might need to subscribe to a survival. All right, here you got some people on the lectern right about now. So you we're certainly looking out we're looking like, I don't know. This is we'll see. But I have said pretty emphatically, and I've said pretty consistently, that I'm going to be making some changes to this channel. And so we'll see. But either way, I'm going to. It's not a contingency here. That's something that I'm going to do. These are just based on my own standards and my own taste. I think some things need to be changed. Once again, I hope everybody's doing well out there. Let me see I'm not sure where this is actually being held here. So actually this is, my gosh, this is Fox Business. Fox Business says this is a President-elect Joe Biden will deliver remarks to the nation. Fox News projected Biden defeated incumbent President Trump to become the 46th president. So this is what you're getting from the proper Fox News, but this is showing up on the Fox Business channel. So This is just more division and more. I just think this is a chaos. It's a coup of chaos. Okay, it seems like we were doing pretty smoothly, and then we started buffering again. Okay. Shout out to everybody in the stream. I'm just going to put this on a little bit of a pause, all the yells and all the cheers and jeers in the background. Once again, shout out to everybody in the stream. Thanks so much for coming in on this flash. It's just a flash. I'm just looking in. And yeah. Once again, hope you guys are doing well. I'm going to drop a link here just a second. Yes, and so if you decide to come up, I mean, it's only we're not going to make this a full on debate or anything. It's just just thoughts a little bit, here and there. Just kind of keeping it open ended here because there's a lot to process, and I'm just going to drop this link here. So we're just going to but we're still going to limit it to a 2.5, 3 minutes if you decide to come up. And it's nice to hear from you guys. It's one of the best parts of doing this, and I appreciate you guys for coming by on your Saturday. Thanks so much for coming in. So shout out to everybody in the stream. And while we wait, how about we just have a word from our sponsors? Thank you guys so much for all that you do. If you're looking for great content creators on the subject of automobiles, current events, politics, culture, history, you name it, take a look at our patrons: Derek C. Williams, Killer Whale Channels, The Definition of Anarchy, Chrysler Imperial H, Let the Truth Be Told, Little Miss Goth, AZ Infidel, Cold War Jesus, and Anthony Scioli. And now, back to the news. All right, and we're back, and I have a visitor. Hello, AZ Infidel. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you on your Saturday?
I am fine, Autumn. Good evening.
How are you? How's your area? Are you pretty calm where you are? And
I'm only in a small town in northwestern Arizona, so there's nothing going on here.
So no rallies or.
No, I've been watching the rallies down in Phoenix. My son went up there yesterday from Sierra Vista and met Alex Jones.
Oh.
And everybody was having a party.
Really?
Yes. It was everyone was energized. There were, at any given moment, there's several hundred people there at least. And I've been seeing that going on across the country for the past 2 days. Joey Gibson was up in Vancouver. There's a YouTube streamer who's live streaming right now. There was a massive rally down in Austin, Texas this morning, midday, where hundreds of people showed up and marched through Austin. So I'm feeling very confident that, it seemed like everyone was in shock the other day. And I personally had to talk to a lot of people I know who suddenly felt very depressed and had lost optimism. And that seems to have turned around.
Well, I mean, I just think it's very I'm trying to look at this from a
Yes, Senator.
f- I'm trying to look at this from a the is from the biggest picture that I can. Is what I'm
Yes,
trying to do. I'm saying the integrity of the country, this process, what's, I I just can't. It just brings I just don't think it's sustainable for this much doubt. I mean, and of course, people have had doubts on other elections, on other occasions, but it just seems like what we've learned over the last at least 3.5 years, that I would think that more people would be concerned, even those that think that they're on the, whether you think you're on the winning side or whatever you think you're on, it just seems like we're missing the target here. It just the way we kind of deal with our government, with civics, with the lawmakers, with the people that we elect. And I what before the week ended, I was just thinking, I was just looking at all the people that have been in the Trump administration, and the people that have been on the committees, even from the confirmation hearings and all. I'm just thinking, these people have been reelected. They're back in their cushy little spots. What do did they really have anything to lose? I mean, I think the more senior that they are, the more indifferent that they are. I just think that's just my concern. I'm not in the sunshine, in a sunshiny place right now. I'm not.
I
And
sensed that when you came on.
it's kind of hard to it's just been hard to shake it's been hard to shake it off, and to
Well,
just because the fact that the media has called this, and it doesn't seem, apparently it's not being, the media is controlling the masses.
yes. You know, you stated it rather succinctly um, when I first got on. We have been under a psychological operation for the past 4 years. Prior to that, we were seeing things going on in the former administration who claimed they were the most open ever. And we were never got redressed on our grievances from the Obama administration. Um, we thought that things were going to get better when Trump became elected. And what we witnessed is a nonstop onslaught against our sensibilities, our patriotism, our love of country, and our president. The the upside is that in order to counter Trump, all of our adversaries had to surface and reveal who they are. So we know who they are now. They have proven to us through their actions how evil they are, and that they will stop at nothing to hang on to the control that they had prior to Trump being elected. That's part of my worldview as to what we've been through. So we have been stressed incredibly over the past 4 years. And having something happen like it did the other day, although it was not unexpected, it was still slightly jarring to actually witness. But hope is nowhere near lost, because we are going to win this. And it's not through, Q conspiracies. It's basic law that the Constitution, that has already been laid down upon the foundation of the Constitution itself.
Well, somebody has to. I mean, you have to hold on to something. And whether it's your faith or whether it's, whatever if you're holding on to your convictions, you're on Law and Order, you have to have something to hold on to. I'm just not, I'm just, like I said, I'm just not sure. I mean, there was an interview that I was going to have earlier this year, and I will say for a swath of reasons, it seemed to get a little bit, that interview just didn't happen. I think maybe there was some, I won't get into the specifics of it, but I think that this was a very important election. And I think a lot of times people tell you exactly what they're going to do. They don't really, I don't see that. I don't see that, that I see that the left, they tend to say exactly what they're going to do. And they mean that. And
Yes.
I don't see, to me, once I heard about the whole mail-in ballots, not absentee ballots, when I heard about that, I'm just thinking, you never did put that to bed, so it's happening. They say it happens. It happens. Like it happened. And but I'm going to be honest, whether we call it the CV, the pandemic, whatever you want to call it, I'm not convinced that stopped anybody from doing exactly what they wanted to do. We have states in this country that are not carrying on, that are not adhering to very many, if anything under that.
You mean COVID?
Yes. We have
Yes.
people that are not, they're making, in certain parts of the country, people make fun of you for wearing a mask. Meanwhile, you go to some other states, it's practically some mandate. It's a mandate that's going on.
Yeah.
So I'm saying that this is just the division is just, but even with this going on, there's still there's no resolve. I don't feel any resolve in any of this right now. I don't. Even though one side might be saying that this is resolved, and then some of us on the other side are saying, no, this is not resolved, but it's looking resolved. It's just, not the most popular thing. And I addressed something about O'Reilly the other day, but then the most popular thing, it just seems to be that most people are on the right are not quite giving up. They're going. So many people are doing rallies, but then the other popular discourse that I'm seeing is that where everybody says, where are all the Republicans? I'm like, well, where have they been where have they been the whole time? Right? I mean, if you haven't heard, I've even heard about, I've heard things about Lindsey Graham. I even heard that Jim Jordan joined somebody at a rally. And I'm just not seeing, I don't know. I'm going to be honest. I'm looking the way I'm not sure with the way things are. If the elite are really going to be the ruling class, I think a lot of things have to change. I think a lot of things are going to have to change, because otherwise you're obsolete. I'm thinking the conservatism and all the spectrum of conservatism. I find that conservatism is starting to look more like a movement for posterity. It's not. I just don't see that. I don't see that this is kind of kept, and it hasn't really kept up with what's. It's not. There's just the teeth behind it. Just don't. It doesn't. They just flick us off. We're just flicked off. Even the people that say that they represent us. I've seen Nancy Pelosi on, get on the TV with Wolf Blitzer and talk about, oh, well, we represent them and we feed them. Have you fed them? And just the posture of that woman. I mean, the posture of her since the beginning of the year. I mean, do you guys realize that we've had so many things happen in this year? We were dealing with impeachment less than 11 months ago. Less than 11 months ago. And it's been nonstop coup, like nonstop. I will say
Yeah.
that I'm exhausted is what I am. That's what I
Well,
am.
I think what you've done is you've taken on a large burden by um, developing a worldview that is so broad, because we've had to face a lot of things coming at us. Okay, and my worldview is also very broad, but I focus in on the moment as to what's going on, and that way I'm not looking at the entire thing, because the entire thing is quite overwhelming.
Well, I think I've also done what I said I was not going to do. I've already gone back on my word, on my individual word about this whole thing, and um, but no matter what side, I think even the people, I don't think there's not a lot of people dancing around in the streets in celebration of this thing either. Even on the left, I mean, no, it's
Well, let me present it to you this way. If every one of us on the right were out in the streets celebrating, it would never get covered anyway,
no, no.
because what's being presented um, is being presented by those in control, and they need to continue to keep um, their people in the bondage that they have them in. Their minds are enslaved to their ideology. Okay, so they're not going to show what's going on our side. What we are
No, I'm
seeing.
I'm referring to the right to the left. I think that even I don't think there's as many people out in the streets, what is it, Anderson Cooper, I think I saw something earlier today, which there weren't that many people out in
I
the
get
streets dancing around, and it's just those little enclave of groups. There
Yes.
was it's still even at that, there were still more people at a Trump rally than that. But I'm just thinking that
Yes.
there's something in the air that is not something that I can't touch it, but the concept is there. It's a concept that's out there that's, you know,
Well, on their what on their side, what we're seeing is that magically COVID has become
why?
cover for there not being many people gathered together. You saw Joe Biden, and he had people on circles, and it was a small crowd. That's because he has no following. So they created a scenario where not having 20,000 people is normal, because it's the new paradigm of COVID. So they've, you know, by accident or by design, this thing synthetically has worked in their favor. But people on our side, I think the majority of them see through this charade that's going on, and everything else seems to buttress the concept that what the left is portraying is all synthetic. It is downright propaganda. It is psychological warfare. In many respects, it is asymmetrical warfare, in that they are trying to assail us on multiple fronts with different kinds of onslaught as far as information goes. We've been treated for the past couple of days with Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden getting up there in front of nationally, proclaiming they're pretty sure that he's won the election. I haven't caught him saying that he has won the election, but it's getting really close. It's all psychological. Joe Biden does not determine who the president. The mainstream media does not decide who won the presidency, and neither does social media. The only body that determines who won is the electoral system. And even though it has been tainted and we are seeing fraud being committed, I believe that there have been safeguards put into place since Trump has been put into office to protect that. Now, in the comments, the private comments between you and me, I dropped a link. There's a government website that is all about government security. I'm sorry, election security. It's a .gov or .gov website. What I posted for you is a PDF that shows the safeguards that have been put into the mail-in ballots, the absentee ballots. And it clearly states that on those ballots were made with embedded safeguards so they could not be copied and distributed. Now, this lines up with stories I have heard, and I hope you've heard the past couple of days, about safeguards that have been put into the balloting so that fraud cannot occur. My worldview tells me is that Trump and the parts of the federal government that he controls, namely DHS, are setting all these people up for a heavy fall. Now, the part of the process we're in now, just after the election, is challenges are going to be made in court through various groups, especially Rudy Giuliani as the attorney for the president and the campaign. Is Joe
Well,
getting ready to announce?
no, I'm not sure. This is Kamala on the screen right now. So, I mean, I will take a look at your link. Thanks so much for sharing that, and I'll take a look at the link. I mean, I'm as I said, I'm still. This is still a. It's just a moment. It's just a moment of standby. Is what and I've done a lot of standing by. I've stood by for many things.
Yeah.
And I think that's also a that there's some safety in standing by and observing. So I'm going to bring us into this into the audio here. I appreciate you so much for coming up and sharing that. Thanks so much for all the support.
My pleasure, Autumn.
Thanks so much. I'm going to bring us into the audio here.
Okay, I'll mute my mic.
Soul of America at stake and the world watching. You ushered in a new day for America. To our campaign staff and volunteers, this extraordinary team, thank you for bringing more people than ever before into the democratic process. And for making this victory possible. To the poll workers and election officials across our country who have worked for is counted. Our nation owes you a debt of gratitude. You have protected the integrity of our democracy. And to the American people who make up our beautiful country, thank you for turning out in record numbers to make your voices heard. And I know times have been challenging, especially the last several months. The grief, sorrow, and pain, the worries, and the struggles. But we have also witnessed your courage, your resilience, and the generosity of your spirit. For 4 years, you marched and organized for equality and justice, for our lives, and for our planet. And then you voted. And you delivered a clear message. You chose hope and unity, decency, science, and yes, truth. You chose Joe Biden as the next president of the United States of America. And Joe is a healer, a uniter, a tested and steady hand, a person whose own experience of loss gives him a sense of purpose that will help us as a nation reclaim our own sense of purpose. And a man with a big heart who loves with abandon. It's his love for Jill, who will be an incredible First Lady. It's his love for Hunter and Ash.
What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take us out of the audio just for a second and just to recognize some people that are in the stream. Shout out to the Information Man Show. Thanks so much for coming in. Shout out to Old Head Deuce and Samantha's Life. Thank you so much for the care on the Channelytics. And shout out to DJ Vision Barnett. Thank you, as well as AZ Infidel that joined me on the screen. And Dad Bod 420 from Periscope. Thanks so much for coming in, guys. So I'm just doing a little bit of a standby here on the messaging that's coming out. And well, let's say the communication right now. This feels like a debrief to me. Not exactly a I don't know, it's just bizarre. This is just the bizarro land is what I refer to things as many times. But I'm not sure if I guess Joe Biden would be coming out, I guess pretty soon. I'm not sure. We'll give it a few more minutes here and see if he comes out because this is giving me another this is a firsthand, I think, on from the other side of this. And but I do anticipate things next week to be pretty active. So this might be it might be a little bit of a lull, but it still feels a little awkward. It's more than awkward, to say the least. So let's see. Maybe it looks like she's wrapping up. Shout out to Old Head Deuce who says, bizarre because it's Saturday, or the reaction, maybe both. Maybe a little bit of both. I normally don't stream on Saturday. I normally don't even flash, if you will, on Saturday. But, this weekend, I don't know if anybody could have anticipated this weekend or the current status. So this just seems like this is a very progressive, and it just seems like there's a thickness in the air that's going to me, there's going to be a turbulence in the air, or a silent turbulence in the air, or a tension in the air for as long as because there's been no concession. And correct me if I'm wrong, fact checkers, get your fact check cartridge boxes out or whatever. And but I'm thinking that that's more than fair to say. There is no concession from the right now. So this is more than premature. We've gone from an election day to, it looks like, an election week, or an election retreat or it's just bizarre. It's bizarre. And that's not, and
Well,
I'm not saying that in a, I'm saying that historically for the US, as well as those who have immigrated, those who have legally immigrated to the US. I'm sorry, AZ, did you have a comment?
well, what I think I've seen so far is she has not actually claimed victory either. She has mentioned, all the votes, but like Biden has done on I think it was the last two press conferences he never actually declared victory. So I think it's a psyop that they're playing in order to motivate their own people and perhaps mess with our minds.
Well, I think also that there's still a bit of a hold even on, I guess the fact checkers are still doing their jobs, if you will, even with it from things that I have, some of the posts that I have seen on social media. And but I did see projected in front of the or president elect. I went from seeing projected to president elect, and even Nancy Pelosi mentioned president elect on her own press conference on Thursday, I believe. Yeah. So,
Uh,
it's all a part of the theater, I guess. To keep it going, right? You got to keep it going. You just, if it stops, then there's no more chaos, right? No more division.
well, theater is precisely what it is. Did you, by chance, watch Rudy Giuliani at the Republican press conference this afternoon?
I think I did see. I think I saw a clip of that. Yeah, I think I saw a clip of it, but maybe not the full. Maybe I did. I saw maybe the guts of, the bulk of it, but not maybe not the entire thing.
Okay, the reason I bring that up is because it's significant. Because at this moment, there are three parties that are involved. It is the election apparatus, it is uh, the Democrat campaign, and the Republican campaign. Now, Rudy Giuliani laid out the various improprieties that they have become aware of, specifically in Pennsylvania, but also in other states. And Monday, they're going to file suit in federal court in order to have those improprieties addressed. Now, until that goes through the court process over the next week or two, there will be no determination as to who won the election. That is plain and simple. And that's why I think we both know that the media cannot determine who won. The Associated Press cannot determine who won, which is who the media relies on for their results. If you look into what they're reporting, they all source the Associated Press. Mainstream media cannot determine who won the presidency. It is still sitting down at the level of the election.
Hang on here. I don't mean to put you on hold here, but I think he's approaching here. Let's go in just a second.
My fellow Americans and the people who brought me the dance, Delawareans. I see my buddy Senator Tom Carper down there, and I think Senator Coons is there, and I think the governor's around. Is that Ruth Ann? And that former Governor Ruth Ann Minner.
Hello.
Most importantly, my sisters-in-law and my sisters.
How you doing?
Anyway.
I'm hanging around. Thanks so much for coming in.
Yeah, no problem at all.
They've delivered us a clear victory, a convincing victory, a victory for we the people. We've won with the most votes ever cast on a presidential ticket in the history of the nation. 74 million.
Okay, so just hang on one sec. I'm gonna do just a little bit of pause here.
All over this nation, all cities and all parts of the country, indeed across the world, an outpouring of joy.
Okay. All right. Thanks so much. It looks like we have the Information Man Show joining us. Thank you so much, Information Man Show. Thank you.
Hey, how are you doing? That's just
Well enough. Well enough. We're just taking a peek here on around. I've done a lot of following up on this, but this is the first dive. So thanks so much for coming on.
yeah. I came on because I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions because my attitude. I've been living for about a minute, and one of the downfalls to all people, no matter what political perspective you have, is that I think people put too much of their emotions and we tie too much of our emotions into these politicians when most of these politicians, I've lived long enough to know that both Republican Party and Democratic Party, they play both sides of the fence. And usually it's the average everyday working person that loses because a lot of these people within politics, they take care of each other. So I don't choose to get emotional because hell, I remember when George Bush Jr. There was a big issue about whether he won Florida, and all of that with Al Gore. And of course, Democrats were emotional about that situation. I think I wanted to ask you this question. Do you think that Donald Trump and his administration used the wrong strategy when he was the one that primarily was saying that he didn't trust mail voting, and he told a lot of people that were Trumpers, go and vote the same day because they're going to do dirty tricks with the mail-in. But in fact, as much as people maybe on the Trump side don't like what's happening, it was quite a bit of the Democrats that voted early using mail-in votes, absentee, yet the military has been doing that for a long time. And no one said that the military's been cheating on their ballots. And as a result, I think the Democrats had the advantage from the standpoint of all those early votes that came in. Now you can argue, were they legitimate or not? You can argue that all day, but the Democrats had that advantage. And maybe Donald Trump miscalculated in telling his folks not to do the mail-in. And now it's come back to maybe bite him. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm not sure. Sorry. I'm not sure that I would say that he took that was actually the wrong approach, because I think that it's one thing about even people on the right or conservatives, I think people still do what's individually best for them. And many people were still having to yield to whatever they had to consider their health in this situation. I don't think that, I don't know if that was actually a strategy, or that he was necessarily wrong for saying that. I don't think that was necessarily a wrong turn. He was pretty emphatic about that pretty consistently, but was it a wrong thing to do? I can't say that I don't have enough.
What I noticed since he's been in office is that a lot of people who follow Donald Trump, they do sort of stick to what he says out of his mouth. So from the very beginning, Donald Trump did say out of his own mouth that he felt that the election was going to be riddled with fraud. He said that before there was even an election put in place. So he had already put that narrative out there that something was going to go wrong, and that there was no way that he could lose to Biden without the Democrats cheating. And that's the reason why I was saying I don't get into emotions around these elections, because I know for a fact that Republicans have done some shady things in elections, and Democrat, whoever is trying to vie for power of that White House, both political parties do what they have to do, because we know in politics there's no permanent enemies, there's no permanent friends, there's only permanent interests. They both do what they have to do to gain the advantage, whether we may like how it comes out or not. Both parties play these political football games. I've seen this happen over many different candidates, no matter who they are.
Yes, I mean, I think we can. I mean, I think that's more than fair. But what I mean, like I said, there's no. What I will say is there's not. I don't think there's a monolith when it comes to people that have supported Trump, or people that decided to come over and support Trump that didn't support him on the last go around. I think that there's been a confluence of things that affected people's behavior in the last 8-9 months.
Right.
So I can't really, especially the CV, the COVID, and I mean that's still on a lot of people's minds, and that's still affecting people's lives. And that's why I will say I cannot. I mean, he also said other things, as he also mentioned about, postponing the election overall. If the CV is what we are, if we are protecting people, if we're taking another measure to protect citizens during this time, then why not just delay it until there is some kind of a turn, or that we can get more evidence that the therapeutics that we have going on are actually maybe working. There's more evidence there. But I mean, I think that, like I said, I do think that there's diversity in thought. I think even amongst, I mean, you have people that look to politicians as saviors, whether they should or not, but that's what they do. I'm personally not a loyalist. I do what's best for me as an individual, and I do that. I think I'm consistent with that, but I can't speak for everybody. I know some people do, but I just think that this has been the most. There's such huge division, and that's not going to go away anytime soon.
Can I ask you this question?
Yeah.
Do you or do you not believe that part of the division within the political system is because there's a bigger division within American society that even goes beyond politics? I don't think that we are really collectively unified as a country. Now, the only time that I saw from my eyes that it appeared as if we were coming together in unity is during 9/11, when what happened in New York. And that really devastated a lot of people emotionally. And that's when you saw a lot of people in this country appear to come together. People were putting flags on their cars. People were, helping one another out. And you didn't hear all this talk about, I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat. It was more about, hey, we were attacked. And then, of course, I know there's conspiracy theories about 9/11 and who was involved in that. But my whole point is that despite the conspiracy theories, people still had a sense of like, hey, we are Americans. You didn't hear people get divided. And now I feel like we're so far away from that moment in time that people are divided by this blue state, red state ideology. And then I just believe that we're also divided in the terms of race as well. Because if I've looked at the numbers, when you look at folks that voted for Trump versus Biden, you look at the racial numbers, the breakdown in those women versus men, the percentages of white men that voted for Donald Trump versus black men who did and otherwise. To me, it feels like and COVID-19 coming into reality actually has exposed our country for being one, fragile, and and divided in our ideologies, and it's actually hurting us. We're so concerned that it's going to be some other outside force that's going to do harm to our country. I'm under the belief that we're actually going to harm ourselves from within and cannibalize ourselves because of the hate, the, I'm this, I'm that. We're so divided, and politics puts you in this box. And I think it's not healthy overall for the country for people to be divided by these little categories of I'm this and I'm that, you're black, I'm white, we're, all of that. That doesn't, through history has shown that doesn't develop success long term going forward. I'll stop right there. I wonder what your thoughts are.
I can see that I think the division is very deep. I think it's more than one. There's more than one level of division, but I also think that that's been mounting. I mean, you went back to 9/11, and I think that I also agree that I do believe that there's been a lot of things have been exposed. A lot of the depths have been exposed. I do, when you talk about the demographics or the demographics on the Trump supporters versus the Biden supporters, I do think that I will say this. I do believe that there was an increase. Trump actually increased the voters, that there was an increase on his side in terms of the black men versus the black women. There were more Trump supporters coming out for his side on this time around. Was it the outcome that he was looking for? Maybe not. But I do believe there's a lot of, I think we're dealing with more of a class warfare than anything, more than, I'm not my flesh. I don't worship my flesh. I've seen people that have less than me. I've seen that. And I know that those people exist, but they might not look, even though they don't look like me, they still, I know they exist. But I'm saying that there's a huge division. There's a lot to be made up, but can it be done? And I'm not sure. I'm not convinced that it can be done on the path that we're on, for people to put so much stock into any entity or any institution at this point. I'm not convinced that it's going to get any better right now. I'm not, and I'm just being honest with you that I just don't think it's going to get any better.
Well,
and,
I concur with you. We're on the same page. I do not think that things are going to get better, because some of the things that I'm seeing, I've seen since I was a kid, teenager, young 20-something-year-old man at one point in time in my life. And I don't see things getting better, although I want things to get better. And you're right. I looked at the numbers. I did a show last night, and I actually see, I don't have a problem with criticizing Democrats or Republicans when I see some faults. There's a lot of problems. I have a lot of bone to pick with Democrats, because they've been living off the backs of black people voting for them, as they did in this election. And we seem not to get what we have earned to get, because Biden and Kamala Harris, they have everything. They speak so much about what they're going to do for immigrants, but yet the immigrants are not even voting for them. That was my show last night. The immigrants are not even voting for them at the level that we vote for the Democratic Party, but yet they're always giving us a backsliding on us and pushing everyone else to the forefront on us. And they've done that repeatedly, which is why I do agree that black people, we need to spread our wings a little bit more with the different parties that we support, and not have it completely locked down to the Democratic Party per se. And you're right. Black women, I think, increased from 4% to 8% in their support of Trump, whereas black men went from 13% to about 18%, if I'm correct. I talked about that last night. And there's a reason. But this is another thing I didn't like. I didn't like the way black men were being shamed because they were deciding not to vote for Biden, because a lot of black men were being shamed by even black women and those in the black community and the Democratic establishment, which I talked about last night. But then when I looked at the numbers, I say, wait a minute, black men still managed to vote for Joe Biden at 80%. And when they voted for Hillary Clinton when she ran, they voted for her at 81%. So that says to me that black men haven't abandoned the Democratic Party altogether, but yet we were being shamed. What are your thoughts about that?
Absolutely. I mean, maybe we were looking at the same material, but I've been looking at it for a few days, and it's yes, I think that there's a huge attack, and this is kind of going into a bit of a cultural tag, and I'm saying that I think that I heard of Maxine Waters attacking black men and denigrating and marginalizing and being an elite and attacking the black men that chose to vote for Trump. And but I think that there's a greater threat here. I'm saying that this whole process, and even at the 11th hour, how you had, people in the entertainment industry coming out, and I'm just thinking, I find these things to be pandering, and I find that that's no better than the right. When we're doing these left-right paradigms, both sides are doing similar things. To get to bring back or to restore whatever they think that they can at the 11th hour. And that, to me, that brought more division. That was a divisive move from what I could see, for them to come in at the 11th hour, whether it was Ice Cube, whether it was 50 Cent or Lil Wayne, whomever it was. But I do see that, of course. I think that there's a constant attack on black males. I see it from within. I'm seeing it more within. I'm seeing there's a micro attack. Right. But I think everybody's looking, people's heads are so far turned, looking at Orange Man Bad, or look at that comb over today. They cannot see what's happening in their own community. And to me, it's very detrimental, and that is not sustainable. That is not sustainable. And it's, I'm proud if anybody thinks for themselves or tries to increase their lot or increases their base of knowledge to make a decision based on what your values are. Do you have any? Do you know what that means? If you've raised your level of thought, then do what you want to do. But you're right. They did not. The black males did not abandon the Democrat Party. Not that they are entitled to the black vote. But to me, that alone is an insult. And it just seems like Kamala Harris, the people of California know her very well. But it just seems that the community is willing to take on anybody. They're willing to take on anybody with melanin in their skin to say, oh yeah, we got us another one. We'll take her.
Let me mention something to you, because I talked about this on my program, and like I said, I believe in being honest here. I don't like Joe Biden because of some of his negatives that I know. I'm not going to run them down. We know what those are, and I got to be honest. I'm not one of those particular people who did not have a liking for Donald Trump, because once he became president, I actually had some disliking for Donald Trump prior to him anywhere being near the presidency, when other things that he's done in his past that I've had a good chance to look at. I've got family in New York. And just like what you're saying about Kamala, I live in California. I know her. I know Kamala very well. Matter of fact, I know her. I know Willie Brown personally. He's a member of my fraternity. I'm a member of Alpha Phi Alpha. So I know Kamala Harris very well. She came to one of our chapter meetings in one of the alumni chapters that I was a member of in San Francisco, when she ran for district attorney of San Francisco. She came to our meeting, and she wanted the Brotherhood's support. We gave her support, and when she got what she wanted, we hardly ever saw her again. I know for a fact personally, because Willie Brown was a member of my chapter, that Willie Brown actually was the one that put her on, as they say. And once she kind of got what she wanted out of Willie Brown, she kind of left him in the dust and started talking negatively about Willie Brown. I talked about that in a show I did several months ago. And so she's she's an opportunist. She'll play both sides of the coin. One minute say she's Asian American, then she'll turn around and say, "Oh, I'm black," when it's depending on the audience that she has in front of her. And my point being is that she didn't move the needle. She did not move the needle for Joe Biden, because if you look at the numbers for Hillary Clinton still got 91% of black women voting for her, 81% black men. And then when I look at the numbers with Asians and other ethnic groups, those numbers didn't jump up any higher than what they were for Hillary Clinton. So I don't personally think, as other people thought, even though some black women got excited about her being on the ticket, I don't think she really moved the needle, even in this election, for Joe Biden, even though they're saying that he won the race or what have you. And I know Donald Trump and his administration wants to fight this, and they can do what they want. But what is your thoughts on that? I don't think she brings anything to the table tangibly.
Well, actually, I see where you're coming from there. I don't think that she does. I think she's not authentic, for one. And I think she's been caught in, I think she's told every interview or every other interview I've seen her on, even if it's with another person that is a black person or of the black community or African American, however you want to handle that, there seems to be, she's got something to prove, or she's overcompensating. It's either something on, if it's not hot sauce, it's some level of chicken, some iteration of a chicken dish, or
Right.
naming Tupac when, my gosh, anybody that knows anything about hip hop, there's a good ton of hip hop artists that are alive and well today, but she seems to be, stuck on Tupac for whatever reason. And
she actually got caught in a lie there. She named the year that he had an album out that he did not have an album out. So that showed you right there how phony she is. The Converse tennis shoes that she wears, that's another thing that's marketed towards black people. Let's keep it 100% real here. And let's keep it real. When she talks about her black side, it was all about marijuana smoke. And you notice that you don't hear anything about her father, who's a very well-educated man. He taught at Stanford, I believe. And he was very disappointed in Kamala Harris giving the reference to marijuana smoke as it relates to Jamaica. So you don't hear much about, and even her mother, who comes from a very high level group in India, very elite group. When she came into the country, she identified herself as white. What I'm trying to say is there's nothing really completely authentic about Kamala Harris. She's a chameleon and does what is best for the audience that she's in front of.
I concur. Yes. I mean, and these are, everything that you've mentioned, I've learned something either firsthand in on the air, or either, I've done some research on her background. And of course, people of California, they know that background, and they've got their own experiences with her. And yes, I just don't see that you're right. I agree. She did not move the needle. She didn't, she couldn't get it started. And I think that's also, I was actually stunned that was his pick. I really was, because to me, she was one of the more poor performing. She was exposed early on for those same things that you mentioned, but then she ended up getting, and that's also the hypocrisy of that party. You guys are doing the color thing all the time, but then you still ended up with what you have. You still ended up with that at the top of the ticket.
Well, I think, this is my personal opinion, I think Joe Biden picked Kamala Harris as a way to say, I'm sorry, black folks, for the 94 crime bill. So I'm going to make it good for you by putting a black woman on the ticket, which actually, it actually capitulated to black women who were going on a campaign saying, and I didn't like that campaign personally, when he did a video, they damn near were like begging him, Joe Biden, black women, we need you to do A, B, and C, right? I didn't like that campaign because I thought personally it made black women look sort of weak, begging this, quote unquote white man. And so anyway, I think that was his way of trying to say, okay, I'm down with the black community. I'm sorry about the 94 crime bill, but now I got a black woman. Let's make it all good. And then you had Clyburn, who came in and legitimized Joe Biden to the black community by helping him get the nomination in South Carolina. So it was
Yes.
like a dog and pony show, if you know what I mean.
Yes, yes. I was actually in the South when that was going on. And yeah, it was like, he's got to pull everybody in to bring it home for that to pander in that
Right.
election. And I heard from people that I hadn't heard from before when it came to Clyburn, and maybe even they had a couple of interviews from maybe HBCUs. I mean, they brought it. They were boots on the ground for him when that was happening in Carolina. So you're right. I think that it's been. You're right. I think it's just not good. These are not good examples, for the woman that says they're a strong black woman, and then you're out doing these things. You submitted to this whole show, and all the letters. There were letters that were written for Joe Biden, and from 100 black men, notable black men, of trying to appeal, saying, we need to choose between the lesser of two evils. And, what it was, even Charlemagne the God that said, you need to pick a black woman on his interview. I It's just not good. It's not good.
I'll tell
To
you.
me, it's a very much, as some people say, plantation style. You gotta,
Right.
and then what was it? I even heard, even Maxine Waters was quoted, as I paraphrase, he cannot go home without a black woman. Now that's about as deep South
Mhm.
rhetoric and propaganda as I
Right.
can down home
Well,
as you can get.
well, you got when you have older politicians like a Maxine Water, there's an old saying, you are who you are when. She comes from that era of thinking and ideology, and sometimes people are who they are. I've said this. I was on a panel once, and personally, when I look at the Congressional Black Caucus or those black politicians, I personally think the ones that have been in office, like Maxine Waters for 30 whatever years, 40, Clyburn, one of the bad things for black people is that we don't have leadership in terms of black people that are in leadership, because these older black politicians are not really doing anything for us. They've been living off of what they've done for years and years ago, and they're not giving us any tangibles today. I feel like we need a new influx of young, up and coming people that are with today's times and understand what we're dealing with. And some of these folks need to be out of office. They're not doing anything. They're just and you know what? And you can place this blame on the Democrats, and I'm sure there's people in the Republican Party that people that are Republican would say, "Hey, I wish this person was out of there," and somebody else who's got a little bit fresher thinking. I mean, you can find people in any party that you say you wish that they were kind of like, you wish they would just retire and get somebody else fresh and new,
Yes, I can see that. I find the CBC, the Congressional Black Caucus, to be pretty docile and pretty. I think they're part of the establishment, and that's
Right.
but they're dressed in their Sunday best, but there's nothing going to change. They are there. They are in place, and I find them to be more globally invested than anything. That's where I find, and not that they shouldn't have that we shouldn't have connections or the greater good, but I think
Right.
that their communities, it's just like, to me, once you get into Washington, I think you either rise to the top or you sink. And I think once they got to the top and their seniority, they're done. They're not going to rock the boat. They've got to stay where they are. They've got to ride things all the way out, ride their time out. And
Right.
that's it. I find that there were some things, obviously, that didn't quite go as far enough as they needed to go in the past. When we talk about, the past, the accomplishments or the achievements of civil rights and all these things, I think there were some things there that didn't go far enough, or that people didn't carry the torch on there. I think they got into I think they traded traded their souls, if you will, in some level, and they just got where
Mhm.
they got where they are there, and they're there. But
Well,
are they beating the ground and trying to and going for prosperity and upward mobility? Nah.
let me bring this up, and then let me say this. I'm gonna be respectful. I don't want to disparage the dead or someone who's passed away. You want to give reverence. You want to be respectful, but I also believe in being honest. When I look at John Lewis, who is famous for what happened to him on the Pettus Evans Bridge, all due respect to him, he sacrificed himself. He was he went through a lot of oppression. He was involved in the civil rights movement with Andrew Young, Dr. King, Ralph Abernathy, that whole group there that laid a foundation that some of us are walking on today. But we got to be honest. John Lewis and a lot of those that were in that inner circle, they weren't the only ones who were harmed that day. But for whatever reason, John Lewis was made a hero because of what happened to him on the bridge, when there were probably other folks that got hurt as well. But what happened is he was able to turn that into a victory for himself when he went into politics, and he was in office for many, many years. And I understand that they gave him a hero's going out when he passed away. But I believe in being logical. If you go back and look at the district that he represented in Georgia, for all those years that he was in the Congress, if I'm correct, there's an old saying, you judge a tree by the fruit that it bears. John Lewis, in the district that he represented, if you look at the conditions and what I think at one point in time, they had high unemployment in the area. I have a problem when we deify, when we put people on pedestals, that and the pedestal that we're putting them on is based on something that from 30, 40, 50 years ago. And then the question is, what have you done for black people? In this case, because he was representing a black area to a certain degree, what have you done for the people that are putting you in office every year? This is sort of the problem that a lot of black politicians are in, where the question is for Maxine Water. Do you know that black people in Los Angeles are being killed and impacted by a lot of these gang members that are coming over from Mexico into Los Angeles? And and I know this personally because of the kind of work that I do within the prison environment. I'm actually a therapist, mental health therapist by trade, but I get a lot of information with the kind of guys that I deal with, what these gangs are doing and what they got doing. They have a green light on black people in Los Angeles because they want California back. It's called, they want Califia, because California was named after a black queen, actually, who guarded this particular part of the region. Califia is her name. And they want the territory back for control, drug control, and what have you. And black people have been shot by some of these gang members and killed in these neighborhoods. Yet you don't hear Maxine Waters. You don't hear any of these black politicians that represent the Los Angeles area talking about how this is something that's affecting black people. And you can put that in the category of this illegal immigration stuff. Okay, people coming over here, and it's harming us. It's hurting us big time. And nobody wants to talk about that, not even these so-called black elected officials. So although we want to give respect to a John Lewis to a certain degree, when you look at his body of work and where he represented, it did not speak very well. When you just look at his political record and what did he pass? What major things did he get passed that helped certain groups that represent him, that he was representing, that looked just like him? And I have to say, when you look at the record, it's very questionable.
Well, I can see that. I think you can go. You gave a lot of real time examples of and what's reflected. The reflection of the leaders and how long their reign. It seems like they are memorialized permanently, and yes, you do give reverence to those for their past, for their triumphs and their struggles and their wins from the past. But I just don't think that is today. it's not, it's just too far. It's lacking. I think it's lacking the amount of relevance that it needs to for today. It has, and I don't think that, it's not. It hasn't been enough. We cannot coast, or we cannot live off of fumes. You can't propel or move up or advance or be more autonomous or be more solvent based on legacies that, like, where is that new age of people, that new age of that new movement? I mean, a real movement, a movement that's actually, a grassroots or an organic movement, not something, and this is not to take away from anybody, not a group that's supported by elites, or
Right.
what it happened to be white liberals or elites. I think there's enough people in communities that are not only are they intelligent, but they have the experience and they
Right.
have the fortitude to make a difference. I
Right.
think people have even backed away from these kinds of grassroots efforts and
Right.
philanthropy, because they don't think that they're not matching up with the elites that have come, after them, or before them, rather.
Yeah.
The
Part of
shoulders.
part of the problem is that people like that, people that are from the grassroots, they're not being groomed by people that are the gatekeepers. The gatekeepers are grooming people that they can control. They're grooming gatekeepers are grooming people that are part of the elite. When you look at, like, for example, Obama. Obama wasn't grassroots. He tried to play this game that he was a community organizer in Chicago. If you were to go to Chicago right now and ask most people that are in those streets in Chicago, they'll say, "Oh, Barry? Oh, Barry wasn't doing all of that stuff that he talking about." Okay, so what I mean by that is, if you go back and do your research on Obama, Obama was groomed since the time he was a kid. There's pictures with him with certain key people back when he was a kid. He was very well spoken. He went to very good private schools, so they saw him as someone that they could groom for something in the future. And that's the problem. A lot of these people in these key positions, they're not grooming grassroots individuals. They're selecting individuals that fit a certain pedigree. And it's really screwing up our politics. So what I'm gonna do right now, I'm gonna get off the panel. I enjoyed the conversation with you. I do have your email. I would love at some point in time to get our schedules matched up so I could bring you onto my program, interview you, let people know who you are, and and also support and promote your program over here as well, with people coming over and giving you support. So at some point in time, I'll send you an email and see. Weekends are usually the best time for me to do any type of live streaming and interviews and things of that nature, if you would like that invitation.
Yes, that would be great. Thanks so much. Yeah, you can send me an email anytime, and I'll be happy to circle back with you on that. And I really appreciate you for coming on. It's nice to have a first dialogue with you. I mean, I've seen you a few places, and I've seen you in the comment section. I want to thank you for the support you've given the channel so far. So thank you for that.
I'm a kind of person. I'm not afraid of people who have maybe different views than me. My program is polarizing. I'm an equal opportunity going to talk about all of you. Okay. But that doesn't mean, because let's say, for example, if you're conservative and you may have different views on things that are different from me, I just think it's closed-minded not to be willing to have dialogue with people who you might have different opinions about, but you might find common ground in certain areas and be surprised by that, So
yes, I completely agree, and you're right. I think people have run away. Most people don't want to. People don't want to have a dialogue. They don't want to have that. I think people like echo chambers, and I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted on the echo chamber. But to do it respectfully and to do it so that we walk away not in a worse place than where we started would be my end goal. Would be my takeaway from any argument or conversation.
Okay, well, Black Spring, keep doing your thing. I like your commentary. You're not afraid to speak your mind and give your opinion and give your educated thoughts about what you know is facts. And that's what it's about, you know? So take care. Thank you. I'll be listening.
Well, thanks so much, Information Show. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the Information Man Show that was just joining me on the panel, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I also had AZ Infidel. AZ Infidel, are you still there?
Yes, I am. You have a good evening. That was very informative.
Oh,
And
well, good. You know, sometimes we get, I think we get gems every, you know, it seems like sometimes we have the best streams when things are not quite, when I'm not scripted or not quite going with a plan or yeah, but I really
well,
appreciate it.
I am intrigued now. I want to find out who groomed Obama.
There you go. Well, it's great. It's definitely, he's absolutely spot on. Yeah, I that's a great word, a great word. I like that word, groomed.
Well,
Groomed and primed.
on that note, I have to jump out also. But if you need any assistance in a live stream, just let me know.
Well, I appreciate it so much. And thank you so much for all the support as you are one of our patrons here. And I really appreciate it so much. And thanks so much for coming on. And we'll keep going here for just a little bit and give us another 15, 20 minutes. And then we will wrap it up and let you guys get to your Saturday evening. Thanks so much again, AZ Infidel.
You have a wonderful evening, Autumn.
You too. Thanks so much. Bye now. All right, guys. Thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate the engagement. And that was AZ Infidel. And earlier and even in between, we had the Information Man Show that came on with some commentary. And I thank you guys so much for that. And shout out to the Lockhart perspective. And I don't know if anybody else is interested in coming up. We'll give another 10 minutes and see what happens. So I'll drop the link in the stream. I think it's nice to have the dialogue. I think those are the best parts of the show, and I really appreciate when you guys chime in. It makes a difference. And thank you guys so much for also tuning in, even though we missed some of the speech from. We heard some of it from Kamala, but there again, you know, I'm just, you know, we'll see. There's just a lot. There's a lot going on, and I think, as I said earlier, I think next week, I think this is going to be. It's just going to keep going. I think the chaos is, you know, I think the elites need the chaos, and I've said this before, whether you're spiritual or not, I think. At some point, we realize that whether you believe in fate, whether you're spiritual, whatever you believe in, that you have to think that, you know, you may think, or you may be under the impression that, are we really in control of all of this? Are we really? And I'm not saying how much control, but are we really? I mean, I just think that as I've said this before, the transitioning has already, I think there's a level of transition that it's undeniable at this point. And I'm not saying that I am the number one fact checker. I always encourage you guys to go beyond this channel and be your own best fact checker, that you are not absolved of your responsibility for self-education. And I say that with all honesty. And, yes, and I'm, you know, that's just a part of my own philosophy. But I think you have to, arm yourself with as much as you can, because of the amount of uncertainty and the amount of things that are going on. So, like I said, we will see what happens next week. I think there are updates, I think, daily almost. And I've said this before also, you know, the whole world's watching. This is not just, oh, what's happening here in the States. And I think some people are really, they really are, I don't know if they're oblivious to that, or it's just not where, they just don't really quite understand it, or they don't really they don't really go beyond, what they see on the tube, if you will, or the one-eyed monster, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, they don't do that. But shout out to Opa26. Thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate you guys for taking care with the Channelytics on this Saturday. And I've said that, I'm going to be making some changes to the channel because I just think that that's just what's going to happen. I have made some changes with the via the loyal patrons, and they're aware of that. Hi, MushY05. Thank you so much for coming in. And for the weeks to come, then you'll start to see those changes, and you'll start to see some of them come through via the community tab. But as I say, just keep your eyes open, and you'll see things that are happening, whether it's in your community or whether it's around in your neck of the woods. You'll see it all. And yeah, I really appreciate you guys so much for coming on. So it looks like I don't have any takers for the second round, if you will. I really appreciate it. So we're going to get ready to wrap it up. I want to give a word to to some of our patrons and thank them so much for all that they do. And thank you guys so much for coming in, and we'll be right back. If you're looking for great content creators on the subject of automobiles, current events, politics, culture, history, you name it, take a look at our patrons: Derek C. Williams, Killer Whale Channels, The Definition of Anarchy, Chrysler Imperial H, Let the Truth Be Told, Little Miss Goth, AZ Infidel, Cold War Jesus, and Anthony Scioli. And now, back to the news. All right. Thank you guys so much again for coming in. And so, yes, I'm going to... Hi, Kimon Reed, Unstoppable. Thank you so much for coming in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be wrapping this up, and I want to thank everybody for coming in. I want to give a special thanks to AZ Infidel for coming up, as well as the Information Man Show. Thank you so much for sharing your time and investing your time and sharing your wisdom with us on the Black Spring with Autumn flash stream today. And shout out to Mush Y05, OPPA 26, The Lockhart Perspective, Kathy Latt. How are you? Thank you so much for coming in. And Old Head Deuce, of course. Thank you so much, Old Head Deuce. You never disappoint, Old Head Deuce. You keep us on our toes around here. And who else do we have? We had DJ Vision Barnett. Maybe you're still hanging around. Thank you, DJ Vision Barnett, and Dad Bod 420. I think I'm missing one other. Samantha's Life. Thank you, Samantha's Life, for coming in. I really appreciate it. And if there's, like I said, if there's anything else, or if, who knows, I told you guys there were going to be changes to the actual schedule. So I'm going to come in, I can be a bit random at times with the streams, as well as, of course, videos. But yes, I want to thank you guys so much again and wish you guys the best. Thank you, Kimon Reed, Unstoppable. Wish you guys the best on your Saturday. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the next live stream, in the comment section, in a video, or another Moonlight stream. You guys have a great Saturday.